Everyone, welcome to another edition of VC Wisdom Podcast. Today with us, we have Antonio Cacorino. I was looking at your name in LinkedIn and was saying Antonio C. I was like, I need to remember his name. Antonio Cacorino. He's the CEO and founder of Apex Capital, which is a VC fund. He's in Portugal. Interesting guy. We had a nice pre-podcast conversation about endurance athleticism, and his firm happens to do somewhat of that. Antonio, can you tell us a bit more about Apex? Tell us about what you guys do at this beautiful VC fund.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to really share what we are doing. So basically, we are a sports media and entertainment investor.
Okay.
Our first vertical, and really our first milestone is really this VC investing.
Mm-hmm.
So we, at the core of what we do is definitely a very strong network of elite athletes.
Okay.
We work with close to 70 athletes across different sports, really motorsports. So we have worked with a lot of F1 guys, Formula E drivers, NASCAR, IndyCar, football, so soccer in this case. So we're predominantly European based for now. Surfing, tennis, golf, but it's really about getting our athletes and pushing forward on the athlete entrepreneur movement. So it's a bit about our athletes being active investors in the deals we do, bringing everything an athlete can bring to the table, from, of course, never forgetting the capital, but their brand, their network, their industry insights, and really their expertise in the space, and that the strategical value that comes with that. And this is why we focus in sports and media and entertainment. Also why we got into VC to start is really where we believed was a logical first step. The earlier the involvement in the company, the more the more strategical value we and our assets combined can have. So yeah, we've been operating on a deal by deal basis. We really wanted to showcase this movement and prove that athletes had appetite to invest early stage and risking and getting involved, and at the same time that companies wanted, especially companies in the sports and media space, that they wanted athletes part of their capital, their cap tables, and really helping them grow and thrive. And this has been going very, very well. We've done 11 deals in a little bit over 18 months.
Wow.
We've we're, like I said, working with close to 70 athletes, and now we are ready to move into our first. So in a few weeks we're going to get our first fund approved, and we're going to be fundraising really to grow the operation, but also to also operationalize better what we do. At the end of the day, when you work with such high level of athletes, timing sometimes is tough, and the best deals you have a few days, sometimes a few weeks to execute.
Yeah.
And if you're in back-to-back Formula One Grand Prix, or you're in Champions League, busy times, it's hard to get these guys' attention, and we don't just have their capital, we have their involvement. So having these guys into a fund but still keeping them active is going to be a challenge, but this is what it's the logical next step, and this is where we are.
So do these athletes only invest, their time, energy, and brand in the fund? They don't have to put money down in a promising business. They just have to do advertising and being, the face of the company. Is that the type of deal?
No, not at all. So they invest capital is for us fundamental.
Okay.
And when and actually everything which comes about them being the face of the deal is just a plus. We're not commercial agents.
Got it.
So we don't do that. We are completely against that. If it comes, it has to come organically, and it's proactively from the athlete side. But we are investors. Athletes bring capital. We have a lot of athletes bringing a lot of strategical value into companies and being silent investors. So just really connecting the people in the space, right? A sports tech company that needs to meet sponsors, to meet rights holders, to meet clubs or federations. Who better than an athlete to connect them to, right? So this is what they do, and yeah. So the strategical value is much more than just being the face or the brand. Of course, that is important. They understand that they're brands, so of course they eventually end up doing that. That's something that comes on top. And at the end of the day, it's about being an investor like any other investor, bringing in capital and strategic relevance.
But I mean, if I have Roger, so let's take an example. Okay, the Cloud shoes, that founded by a Swiss guy. I think yeah, it's called Cloud, the startup, and they're very nice shoes. Technology is basically a rubber under with like holes. I'm not sure if you know what
Yeah,
I
I
refer
know,
to.
no, I
The
know very
guy,
well. Yeah,
yeah,
we know very well. We know even investors at back. Yeah, we know.
former Iron Man beast of a guy, and he had, and that was so surprising to me. He had Roger Federer coming to him like magic and telling him, "Look, I want to sponsor a brand," you know. And if I would have received that phone call, I'd be like, okay, is that serious or is it a prank call? Um, and yeah, I mean, Roger became, you know, the face of. I mean, I think he invested too, but to me, sometimes to accept, you know, these faces in the company can literally make or break a company. For example, Floyd Mayweather, that was backing a bunch of shit coins. I mean, it's not the best example, but if I had like Floyd, you know, with a legit coin that I would have, this would literally change my company. A bunch of people would invest in these. Same with the Bored Ape NFTs, you know, with Bieber investing and Floyd and all of these celebrities. So I'm still surprised that they have to put some money down. Is there some cases where they don't have to put any money down, or that, you know, they can get like a free percentage of the cap table?
Well, that that is possible, but this is something. I mean, at the end of the day, uh, when you believe you are in that front line of the best deals, what athletes get because of who they are is access to the deal. So straight away, that is out of question. The deals are that good that even top names like just saying, let's give the example of Floyd. Even those guys need to put capital. So
Okay.
what Floyd gets is because of who he is, he has access to the deal. This is the
Okay.
type of deal that we believe we reach. We've
And
done recently a deal with the biggest names in the sports, and everyone invested capital. And for us, but even if it was the case, let's call it of a company that would be willing, we
mhm,
always push for capital investment because the moment there's real skin in the game, even if they associate the brand, if there's no money, the mindset is different.
true,
And
true,
we need these guys to
100%.
have that mindset. This is something that we push. So this sort of sponsorship for equity, advisory for equity, it can be a plus. So we can negotiate some sort of hybrid solution, but there always has to be capital invested.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's accountability for sure. So I understand that aspect of it. Let's if we take a couple of recent examples of athletes, like Kobe Bryant was very good at that. He started his own fund, I believe. Jake Paul has started his fund with the founder of a nootropic company that Jeffrey Wu is his name, and this is kind of cool. Their fund. The need, I guess, for athletes is to diversify their assets because they know that they're not gonna last forever. Their like sports career and their big, huge yearly salaries. So is that like the trend that we're seeing? And is there a difference between what kind of roster are you looking for? Are you looking for top athletes because these guys I guess have like more money and more power and more social capital? What type of athletes are you looking for in your VC?
Okay. So when your first question regarding what's the trend or what's the reason, I think it's
Yeah.
a bit of everything. Of course, the logical approach or the logical understanding that they need to diversify and need to invest because eventually it'll stop. That is obvious, and that is a bit the pitch that a private banker or wealth manager gives to these guys. Our approach is completely different. It's more about just them understanding the power of their brand and like leveraging that into investing, and being having appetite for being entrepreneurs or investors, and just
Okay.
that can be either part of their life sort of while they're having the career and
Mhm.
potentially their post-career let's call it activity. So
Mhm.
it's more this type of athlete that we want, and this
Okay.
nails down very well with your second question, is what type of athlete. Of course, the tier one athletes are interesting because of the bigger brands, but at the same time what we really want is those guys who have this entrepreneurial mindset and who want to get involved. We don't have, we work with a lot of, not necessarily the biggest names. We work with the big names as well, of course, but we work with guys who just have that appetite. And sometimes these are the ideal investors in many ways because they don't have the ego problem of, grabbing their phone and calling, making connections, bringing other athletes involved. So these guys sometimes are, a bit more hustlers and, and become more strategical or more powerful investors, but they also balance super well with the other guys, which are also active. But sometimes because they're that big that they're a bit, they're used to getting phone calls, they're not making phone calls. So it's a tough, so sometimes barrier to break, even though it comes with time. And I see great cases of huge names getting involved. I mean, like in the US, right? This athlete entrepreneur movement in the US has been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
We believe to be leaders in Europe, and and what we always tell our big European guys is like, look at the US, look at how these guys are doing it. Kobe did it. Kevin Durant does it a lot.
The
LeBron
impressive
does it a lot.
examples, like if you UFC is like, to me, is the most fascinating organization in the world. And if you look at their athletes and how they manage their career, and if you look at like young up and comers like Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. He has someone following him, 24/7, managing his TikTok and Instagram and all of that. And this guy knows his shit. Even if he breaks something, he'll have something for tomorrow. Either a career and commenting fights, or his own channel, and athletes diversifying their channels like that. And younger generations are way more tech savvy. Matter of fact, so they already know these things. I think like older generations have a bit more of a problem managing their own digital self, one could say.
No, 100%. And right now, one of the why as well it's been a great moment for us is because right now, rights holders, clubs, leagues, federations, they're trying, they're figuring out how they're going to reach the Gen Z, right? And at the end of the day, sports assets, media assets, it's all about the consumer, the fan, and more and more, sports fans stopped following necessarily clubs or they're following athletes. Why is Formula One so big now? Because Liberty created the Netflix show, and the Netflix show
exactly
gave lights to the athletes.
Yeah.
So fans started to follow and specifically like this specific driver or this one, and then they go into Formula One. So the power of the athlete, so the athlete is a tool that these clubs, and the federation rights holders need to have on their side, so they can optimize, the fan engagement. So, and it's all about fan engagement. Everyone's talking about fan engagement. I really believe the athlete is the centerpiece in sports. So it's great moments for us, because we have the athletes, and the athletes are understanding their power. So more and more, especially on a venture level, athletes are becoming super important investors.
And I think they still need some support, right? Because you were alluding to recently that they go with the pull strategy. I was listening to Mike Tyson's podcast, which is a very good podcast, by the way, and he was saying another athlete basically that everything comes to him, but sure, when you're Mike Tyson, yes, but and also even when you're Mike Tyson, you still want to be hustling, you still want to be creating deals and going after the things that you want, and not necessarily have everyone come to you. Sure, if someone comes to you, it's easier to convince them, right? But you still need to fetch these opportunities and stay savvy with the market, which leads to my next question. How business savvy are most athletes, because they've got a bunch of characteristics that can serve them well, right? They know how to work hard, they know how to be intense, push, destroy things sometimes, and they have great energy, they're healthy, their brain is usually healthy too, except if they've been hit in the head many times. But even Tyson, is surprisingly has a lot of wisdom in him. So what are there traits that might be serving them in business, and what are the other traits that might not be serving them in business?
Good question, and I think the way you look at it is the right approach. I mean, anyone who stopped at what they do in life has to have something different, right? Be it of course talent, but normally talent, especially these days in sports, is just not enough. So these guys on the mindset level all have to have something different: mentality, focus, endurance, persistence, whatever it is, they all have some. So it's just a question of breaking the the stereotype around them, and really being open to listen,
the ego.
to understand. So it's all about like everything in your life, you have different type of athletes. The better surrounded they are, the better they can really also bring what they have into you. But normally, once they break the stereotype, or they're just not afraid of being, then again, these guys are so focused sometimes about what they do that very comfortable there and they get out of comfort to, anything different.
Yeah.
So that can be a block into many of these guys to understand their true potential as investors, understanding the potential of any business. But the guys that get around that, they are top. They're sharp, they're to the point, they understand, they're part of the industry. We invest in sports and media, so they understand, straight away, we can look, sometimes athletes are great, in due diligence for us. So, there's a sports tech company trying to solve a problem in the industry, let's call it.
Sure.
They can straight away see if that problem truly exists, because you can say there's a problem, but does it truly exist? They will also understand, is there still political barriers that will actually allow the solution to solve this problem? So they can see that. And the moment they're cleared about these, barriers, they are super smart investors. So in general, they are very, very, guys with different set of capabilities. This is why they are where they are. It's just about, what type of, personalities they have, what type of structure they have around them. And sometimes can be very good, sometimes can be very bad.
100%, very insightful. So ego, who they surround themselves with. And the third point, which leads to my next question, is sometimes they surround themselves with unhealthy folks, and even without surrounding themselves with unhealthy folks, sometimes they're part of unhealthy organizations such as FIFA, which had their bouts with a bunch of things, but FIFA might sign them on very obstructive contracts. You cannot do this, you cannot do that, you need, or even toxic brands, like, hey, if you're doing this, then you need to feature us, and so forth. You get into hurdles sometimes with athletes that have restrictive contracts and they cannot do shit with you, and that makes you like kind of angry and unproductive in the process.
Yeah, these guys are all, it's normal. They're surrounded with sponsorships, then their teams, there's normal blocks, especially if they're going to be associating themselves publicly with it. And what happens is, many ways they think it's a block, and we tell them no, because you being strategical doesn't mean like put in your face. You can be strategical, you can be a silent investor, you can be opening doors. Of course, just the initial restriction that you cannot be, publicly associated with this company, of course, it gives them some sort of fear. And we've had, block, that's normal. It's part of who they are. But so sometimes it's a block. Sometimes we find a way around it by them being silent investors. Sometimes, they understand that actually those, if you're a sponsor and you're going to sponsor, your Red Bull, you're sponsoring a driver, a football player, whatever. If they're going to ask you, can I do this? You're just going to say no, right? Because, I prefer not to risk. If you're asking me, I'll tell you not to do this. But at the end of the day, if you go down to the legal contracts and if you understand really the implications, there are solutions. Sometimes guys, some athletes don't want to go into the problems, or just, prefer not to dig deeper. Once we dig deeper, we always find a solution. So yes, we countered some blocks along the way, but in general, the movement is stronger, and these blocks are becoming less and less. And like in the US, one thing is invest, another thing is business, another thing is, your sports career and your sponsorship. If there's an obvious clash, there's an obvious clash. If my team is sponsored by, a big, energy drink, I can also invest in the competition while I'm the star. That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
We don't even, but yeah, that's it.
You have a meeting coming up, right?
Yeah, I have a meeting unfortunately coming up.
Yeah.
But we'd love to continue the conversation.
Sure. Let's do round 2, man. We need to speak about Web3 and all of these things, which are also under my umbrella. So just in case we do that round 2 a bit later, where can people find out more about you?
So right now, we of course, our website, our LinkedIn page. There's some interesting news around there. There's going to be some great things coming out about some specific deals about us. But right now, the obvious one is our website, www.apex/cp.com, or just our LinkedIn, Apex Capital. And yeah.
All right. Well, that was Antonio Cacorino. You can find it under that name on LinkedIn. Antonio, thank you so much. Very insightful interview. Charles. Very cool business you have. Let's keep touch, buddy.
Thanks, man. And nice to chat. Better. Bye.